First, I'm going to start with, like, on campus, like, I encounter a lot of people who have really, like, just stupid arguments. Like, my best friend, like, she's not my best friend, but she's a friend I see on a regular basis. She is a pro-abortion, and she says that although baby murder isn't unethical, circumcision is. When the left gives you arguments like this, how do you handle, like, people who inherently contradict themselves?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that you have to do, I mean, the nice thing is if you're going to contradict yourself, that gives you an immediate opening, right? I mean, spotting contradictions in a person's argument is the first step toward defeating the argument. With a person like this, I hope that there's a crowd around because, again, the only purpose of the conversation is to humiliate this person as badly as possible in front of as many people as possible. It's legitimately the only purpose. But, you know, for a person who says things like that, the nice thing is that hypocrisy is easy to point out. So you're very, very concerned about foreskins being cut off, but not heads being cut off. Right? It seems like I'd be more concerned with more flesh being cut off rather than less, just on a basic level. Also, it turns out that cutting off the foreskin, I can testify from personal experience because I now have 2 children. It does not prevent the production of children. It turns out that killing children prevents the production of children. So I'm not sure what you're...
Hi, Ben.
It's amazing for the left how bodily integrity starts only the minute that the mother feels like it should start, right? It's subjectively defined life. The evil of abortion is truly astonishing to me. The fact that the left will openly now make the argument, this is something new, even in my lifetime. 10, 15 years ago, they used to say safe, legal, and rare. They at least used to pretend they cared about abortion as a moral issue. Now they just say, oh, it's a great thing. And they say that human beings can be subjectively defined, that whenever a woman feels like a baby becomes a baby, then it becomes a baby, right? When Princess Catherine, when Princess Kate, when she was pregnant, every headline in the world was Princess Kate pregnant with baby, right? It wasn't Princess Kate pregnant with cluster of cells that may or may not be a child depending on her feelings today, right? And same thing with Chelsea Clinton. We all have to celebrate Chelsea Clinton is pregnant, she's having a baby. Or when Chelsea Clinton was pregnant, we couldn't, it's astonishing to me that no Republican candidate just said it to Hillary Clinton. You know, I'm very happy for you that you're about to have a grandchild. That's very exciting. Aren't you excited about it? Let Hillary say yes and then say, why are you so excited about it? What if Chelsea decides to kill it tomorrow? You okay with that? And then just watch Hillary stand there on her cankles. So you know, I think that there's plenty of material here. The abortion debate is actually a really easy one. You either believe that's a life or you don't. If you don't believe it's a life, you believe it's a bundle of cells. If you believe that's a bundle of cells, you're a bundle of cells. Your life is meaningless. So, you know, this debate... This debate is not hard. You just have to take a hard position not to back off of it on behalf of sensitivity, because the left's usual argument to this is, well, but you can't say anything. Now, you guys are lucky, right? I mean, you're women, so you get to talk about abortion. For me, thanks to modern politics, I also have a way out. I just identify as a woman when I talk about abortion. And this makes things really easy for me. So for the past 5 minutes, I've been a woman, and boy, ladies, I feel your pain. I'm with you. The shoes are too expensive. Okay, now we're done with that, and I'm back to being a man. So.
Okay, so this is the first thing that I would say is that when they argue morality, you should not argue policy. You will always lose. Morality always beats policy. It's why Republicans lose. Right? When they argue that it's immoral for you not to be nicer to the poor, and you argue, yes, but your policies are ineffective. Okay, immoral beats ineffective in an argument any day. So when it comes to purely moral issues, social issues like abortion, to get more specific, the reality is that abortion is not a complex issue. It's a very simple issue. That's either a life or it isn't. It's that simple. If it's a life, you can't kill it. If it's not a life, you can do whatever you want. It's a kidney, right? So, and then it becomes, okay, so how do we define life? And the answer to me is you define life by the same way that you would define life if you found it on Mars, right? If you found a single-celled organism on Mars, it's a life, right? I know, as somebody who has one baby and another on the way, you know, that what's in there is not a random piece of tissue. At the very least, even if you don't believe it's a life yet, it's certainly a potential human life. And that seems to be more valuable than your convenience. And there's something nasty and cruel and degrading about the idea that you get to decide whether something is a life or not based on whether it's convenient to you or because it's in your body. By the way, this is exactly... It truly is amazing, actually, how history repeats itself. The argument in favor of abortion is exactly the same as the argument in favor of slavery. Exactly the same, right? You're on my land. I get to decide. It's up to me to decide whether you're a person or property. It's up to me, right? What are you going to say? It's on my land. What are you going to do about it? So when you have women who say it's in my womb, I get to decide based on what I feel today. I look into my heart and I decide whether this is a child or not. Well, it turns out that in human history, there's a long and inglorious chain of people who said, I get to decide whether this person is a person or not. And it never ends with anything but mass death. So if you want to be that person who says, okay, that's not a human life, I'm just going to flush it down the toilet because it's personal convenience. You can always tell, by the way, who is losing an argument by who's using the euphemisms. When it comes to abortion, the left uses nothing but euphemisms. Abortion, terminate the pregnancy, pro-choice. They never say, oh no, what I would really prefer to do is go in there with some steel instruments, cut that baby apart and suck its brain into a sink. Right? For some odd reason, they don't like talking like that. I can't imagine why. So, I've never been a fan of pussyfooting around this particular issue. I think that it would be well worthwhile for whoever the Republican nominee is. One won't do it, but it would be nice if somebody would go onto a stage with Hillary Clinton and say, your stated position is that this child, then reach into his breast pocket and pull out a picture of a child at 30 weeks and say that this child can be murdered at the whim of the mother. This is your stated position. You believe that this is not a human, right? This is a piece of flesh. It's a piece of random flesh. This makes you a bad person, right? It does. It makes you a bad person. My wife's 30 weeks pregnant right now. That baby's kicking the hell out of her. I promise you, that ain't a random piece of flesh in there. That's my child and it's her child. And anybody who says differently ought to be caned. It's disgusting. And just to clarify for the Donald Trump voters, that's not literal. People shouldn't actually be caned for their opinions.
Is this on? I'm Mackenzie, and I go to Carpenter High School. And I often get asked questions about abortion all the time. And it's really difficult for me to come back with, my answer. And people always ask, well, what if the woman is raped? What do you do? What would you say in that case?
Yeah, so what I always say with regard to rape, for example, is that if a woman is raped, we should find her rapist, we should track him down, and we should kill him, right? Or castrate him. These are my two options. Pick one. Whichever one you please, right? Either one of those is okay. Also, it's bad to kill babies. That's my answer. They're completely unrelated. The two topics are completely unrelated. The source of the pregnancy and whether that's a human life in there are two completely unrelated topics, right? It's a very difficult emotional issue, which is why my personal view of abortion is that when the mother's life is in danger, then abortion is appropriate. That's my exception. Not the health of the mother, the life of the mother. And for me, that includes suicidality, for example. So if a woman is suicidal and she's going to kill herself because she doesn't want to bear this child, then abortion is appropriate. But other than that, these are two separate issues, right? Because rape is wrong, and so is killing babies, it turns out. Two things can both be wrong. They're not equally wrong. In fact, it depends which way you view it. But the fact is that what they want to do is they also, let's be real about this, what the left wants to do is pick the outlier and then use it to justify all the rest of the abortions. Okay, 99% of the abortions in this country have nothing to do with rape. Nothing to do with rape. They have to do with people having irresponsible sex. They have to do with convenience. They have to do with age. They have to do with they don't like whether it's a boy or a girl. So what they like to do is they like to take the one outlier case and the one that tugs at the heartstrings and then say, well, let's just make abortion legal in all circumstances based on that. How about this? I'll make an agreement with the left. Let's outlaw all rape except for rape. Now are they happy? Of course not. Right? Of course not, because they're not really talking about rape. They're talking about how they want all abortions to be legal, and they're using a marginal example as the rule in order to make sure that abortion is legal across. You say that to them. If they say rape, you should say, listen, how about this? We'll make a deal. All the rapes, all of the pregnancies that do not spring from rape must be carried through to term. Now are you happy? They won't be happy, I promise you. And that's how you expose them. That's how you say, well, then it really isn't about the rape, is it? You're just using that as an excuse.
I hate, and then we'll sign off. So things I hate. There's this new movement on the left for women to shout their abortions, champion their abortions. Yay, I killed my baby, woo! So Amy Brenneman is an actress, and I recognize her face, but I can't remember what she's been in. She's been in a lot of stuff. But Amy Brenneman, she has now cut a video and wrote a piece for Cosmopolitan about how she is just wonderful because she's had abortions. So here's Amy Brenneman talking about how she is just a better person for having killed her baby when she was 21.
I remember being very, very, very young and, my mother saying, take care of yourself, use birth control, know your body, and that abortion is a law of the land. That was a big win. I mean, just like, women getting the right to vote. I was 21. I was in college, I think it was like after my junior year or something. I'd been with a boyfriend for many years who was very loving and supportive and great. I mean, we used birth control and we did all the right things. I remember I was in California visiting some friends in Northern California, and I was going to meet him in LA. And I realized, like, oh, I'm not getting my period. I don't think I'm getting my period. And I said to John, I was like, I think I might be pregnant. And I guess I was wise enough to know, like, I'm not ready to be a mom. John paid for it, and I was treated very well. And the idea of, like, oh, wow, I get to choose. But it's a big deal to become a parent, and it's a big deal to parent different kinds of children. Now that I am a mom, I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old, and because I live in a country where I could wait, I chose the right time, and even so, parenthood just knocks you on your ass. And I think what's amazing about today is, like, people telling stories, and some of them are sad and some of them are not sad, and all of them celebrate this basic law of the land, which is,
stop this. Okay, stop this for a second. Okay, so number one, you keep hearing her say this basic law of the land, this law of the land, law. Have a morality. Have morality. That's gone. Notice that the left hides behind law when they don't have morality. Oh, that's the law of the land. The left doesn't give two craps about the law of the land. They don't care about the law of the land. You got to be kidding me. Okay, the left shifts the law of the land based on their own personal whim. Roe v. Wade was an example of the left shifting the law of the land based on their personal whim. Right? And then for her to stand there, oh, well, I had a loving boyfriend for a long time, and we did all the right things, and we got pregnant, and then we just decided we weren't ready. What would have been so terrible? Let me just ask a counterfactual for a second. What would have been so terrible about you not murdering your baby? What would have been so bad about that? Well, I mean, there would have been one good thing, which is that you wouldn't have killed the baby. That would have been good. But let's say that it was really troublesome. You're 21. I mean, I love that in our society, 21 is a kid, right? You have a long-term boyfriend. You're old enough to be in college and have sex as much as you want, but you're not old enough to be a mom, right? And you just can't handle it. And I couldn't handle it. Guess what? There are a lot of things in life that are tough to handle. Doesn't mean you get to kill them. Right? What happens when you have a bad day with your 14-year-old, Amy? You just put him out to pasture? Like, well, what exactly happens there? It's so vile to deny the humanity of something just because it's convenient to you. At no point here does she actually acknowledge that what was inside of her was a growing human being, right? That's key to her. Because the minute she acknowledges that, then this whole sham falls apart. You can't have the inspirational music when you're talking about, I realized I was, like, it's all euphemisms. I realized that I was pregnant, and then I just decided I couldn't handle it, and stuff happened. It's all euphemisms. Well, what kind of stuff happened? Did you go to the grocery store? Like, what exactly happened? Or did it turn out that they put instruments up into your womb to cut out a living human? Right? Is it possible that it was that? A growing human inside you that had a heartbeat and that was going to have a life. Was it possible that maybe that was a bad thing? It's all euphemisms. This is why I've encouraged Republicans, don't use the euphemisms. Don't use the euphemisms. This isn't abortion. It's not termination of a pregnancy. It's killing of a growing human child inside you. And I feel very strongly about this, but my feelings don't matter. I mean, the science is what really matters here. But just on a personal note, my wife is now 29, 30 weeks pregnant, and the baby's kicking up a storm. There are still states in this country where she could go into a doctor and have that baby chopped up in the womb. There are still states in this country where that is legal. And Amy Brenneman would celebrate that as my wife's choice, When I've compared abortion to slavery, I've said there's nothing more evil than the idea that you get to decide what's human and what's not based on your own personal convenience. That's what slaveholders did. Well, it's on my property. If it's on my property, it's a slave. If it's on my property, that's not a person, that's my property. Well, just because your womb is your property doesn't mean that what's inside your womb you get to target and destroy and define as something convenient to you. It really is gross. This whole celebrate evil, and this isn't just, remember safe, legal, and rare? Remember when that was the slogan? That it was immoral, but we wanted it to be safe, legal, and rare? Forget that. Now we're going to celebrate it openly. The open celebration of evil. We're moving toward a very dark time in the country morally. Morals have gone by the wayside in favor of what is personally beneficial to you. And so it's I think, really important to recognize that we are on the precipice here. And if we don't start teaching our kids a basic morality, basic constitutionalism, basic founding philosophies, don't leave it to the government, don't leave it to the entertainment industry, infiltrate industries, take over industries, really fight back, create a movement, not just getting behind the latest demagogue, then there's so much left that we can still lose. On the other hand, there's still so much that we can gain. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more about how we do that. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. So much news to get to. I want to start today with a little bit of fallout from the abortion decision by the Supreme Court yesterday. So yesterday, the Supreme Court comes down with this abortion decision, which we discussed at length legally here on the Ben Shapiro Show. But the most controversial thing that happened yesterday with regard to this abortion decision came courtesy of legitimately the least funny human being on planet Earth. I mean, there are terrorists who are more funny than Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah he's comedy cancer. He ranks somewhere between the Black Plague and an actual devastating climactic apocalyptic world event in terms of funniness. Okay, so he's awful. So he tweets out, the Daily Show tweets out yesterday, celebrate the SCOTUS ruling. Go knock someone up in Texas. This is what the Daily Show tweets out. And the left was sufficiently embarrassed that a lot of them said, oh, this is out of line. I can't believe that Trevor Noah tweeted this. Here's what I don't understand, why the left cares. I don't understand why the left cares. It seems to me that the left should be fully embracing this. And when I was at the 2012 Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, I remember very clearly walking down the street past a bunch of anti-abortion protesters, pro-life protesters carrying posters of aborted babies. And walking near me were a bunch of people who were Democrats going to the convention. And there were a bunch of young guys wearing Obama shirts and wearing buttons. And the buttons said, I love pro-choice girls. And I thought to myself, well, I can imagine why you love pro-choice girls, right? Because you knock one up and then they go have an abortion. They treat it as birth control. I've never understood the left's idea that there's some, why exactly, I really don't get why they're upset about this. Go knock someone up in Texas. They don't believe that you're even creating a baby by knocking someone up in Texas, right? You're creating a polyp that can be removed. That's why when Hillary Clinton says things like safe, legal, and rare, when she says safe, legal, and rare, she doesn't mean any of that stuff. Because the reality is that if you believe that basically a baby is nothing but a ball of cells that's useless human flesh, then what do you care if it's removed? It shouldn't be rare. It should just be a thing you do, right? Nobody has ever said your colon, removing a polyp from your colon should be rare. Or nobody's ever said that. It's just a polyp. Who cares? They say that abortions should be rare because they know deep down in the cuckles of their perverse minds, they know that these are babies, right? And if these are babies, then they would presumably have to admit at some point that, that it should be illegal to kill them. You shouldn't kill babies. I mean, the fact that you have to say these sentences out loud in modern America shows what a paganistic road we've now run down. We shouldn't kill babies. Really? Like, this is stuff that we have to argue this. We have to argue this. And the left refuses to acknowledge the implications of the things that it says. So last night, I was on the Kelly File. Martha McCallum was hosting for Megyn Kelly, and it got into a debate with Ebony Williams, who's a contributor on Fox News. And you'll see me press her on this point, and you'll see she really has no good answer for it.
Well, look, I thought the tweet from Trevor Noah was ignorant, sad, and very distracting from what I thought was a very classical constitutional analysis delivered by the court today, and I thought that was sad. I've got to respectfully disagree with Ben on the fact that most Democrats see abortions as a primary method of birth control or method at all of birth control. I'm just simply not aware of the data that shows that. I know for, people that I know personally that are pro-choice, they are just that. They're pro the woman's right to choose, actually not pro-abortion even, and certainly not advocating that be some method of birth control. That's why we have other actual birth control options.
Yeah, I mean, there were other pro-choice individuals who said that they were horrified by some of these expressions.
Disgusting.
By the one that Trevor Noah put out. You're shaking your head, Ben. You don't believe that?
Yeah, why? I'm just wondering exactly why there's...
I thought it was a disgusting claim because it was a celebration, and it kind of, to me, underscored the point you made, Ben, and I think it's a sad and disgusting point that anyone in this country would view abortion as a method of birth control.
But why would you object to that? If you don't think that the child is fully human, then why would you care?
First of all, nobody said that. I think that you're connecting dots that I've certainly not stated. That
so if the child is fully human, why are you okay with aborting it?
So to be pro-choice. Actually, you know what? Senator Marco Rubio, I thought really brilliantly brilliantly laid out this analysis in one of the debates where he talked about this issue of whether or not the child is unborn and does the child have rights, and also does the mother have rights, and where do those rights intersect or overlap. And I'm someone that believes that certainly the child, unborn child, has rights. I believe that the mother has rights. I simply happen to be a person, and some believe that those mothers' rights deem to usurp those rights. But certainly it's not to disrespect.
In what world would any of my rights allow me to kill another human being?
Well, Ben, again, you're not a woman, and as a woman, I'm someone that's simply saying it is my position that a woman has a right to dictate the choices around her body, but that is not to ignore or take away the rights of any unborn child.
I'm not a slaveholder either. That doesn't mean that I get to let slaveholders define what constitutes property and what constitutes a human being.
Ben. That's good news. I'm really glad that you're not.
No, the point that I'm making, I mean, if you'd let me finish the sentence, the point that I'm making is that the greatest moral problem in society historically is the idea that you get to arbitrarily define what is human and what is not based on your own convenience.
I don't believe it's arbitrary, and again, this is not a discussion about humanness, but thank you.
And Martha looks a little bit flustered by the exchange here. But you can see that Ebony has no comeback to this, because she's arguing in a circle now. She says, well, if there are rights for the baby and rights for the mother, I think it's an unborn baby that has rights. Well, once you say that, the argument's over. Because no matter what you think my rights are, my right doesn't include my right to kill you. Right? That's where my rights end. So there's no argument for the left here, and they know it, and that's why they always have to hide behind silly little phrases like safe, legal, and rare, and they have to pretend that they're really upset by abortion, but they're not really upset by abortion. They actually love abortion. Abortion is a sacrament to the left. It's why Wendy Davis was super happy yesterday. You know, the lady who was filibustering for 14 hours because she loves abortion so much, she was super happy. There are people literally clinking champagne glasses over this decision. Pretty amazing.
Hi, Ben.
It's amazing for the left how bodily integrity starts only the minute that the mother feels like it should start, right? It's subjectively defined life. The evil of abortion is truly astonishing to me. The fact that the left will openly now make the argument, this is something new, even in my lifetime. 10, 15 years ago, they used to say safe, legal, and rare. They at least used to pretend they cared about abortion as a moral issue. Now they just say, oh, it's a great thing. And they say that human beings can be subjectively defined, that whenever a woman feels like a baby becomes a baby, then it becomes a baby, right? When Princess Catherine, when Princess Kate, when she was pregnant, every headline in the world was Princess Kate pregnant with baby, right? It wasn't Princess Kate pregnant with cluster of cells that may or may not be a child depending on her feelings today, right? And this debate is not hard. You just have to take a hard position, not to back off of it, on behalf of sensitivity, because the left's usual argument to this is, well, but you can't say anything. Now, you guys are lucky, right? I mean, you're women, so you get to talk about abortion. For me, thanks to modern politics, I also have a way out. I just identify as a woman when I talk about abortion. And this makes things really easy for me. So for the past 5 minutes, I've been a woman, and boy, ladies, I feel your pain. I'm with you. The shoes are too expensive. Okay, now we're done with that, and I'm back to being a man. So
okay, so the first thing that I would say is that when they argue morality, you should not argue policy. You will always lose. Morality always beats policy. It's why Republicans lose.
Same thing with Chelsea Clinton. We all have to celebrate. Chelsea Clinton is pregnant. She's having a baby. Or when Chelsea Clinton was pregnant, we couldn't. It's astonishing to me that no Republican candidate just said it to Hillary Clinton. You know, I'm very happy for you that you're about to have a grandchild. That's very exciting. Aren't you excited about it? Let Hillary say yes, and then say, why are you so excited about it? What if Chelsea decides to kill it tomorrow? You okay with that? And then just watch Hillary stand there on her cankles. So you know, I think that there's plenty of material here. The abortion debate is actually a really easy one. You either believe that's a life or you don't. If you don't believe it's a life, you believe it's a bundle of cells. If you believe that's a bundle of cells, you're a bundle of cells. Your life is meaningless. So, you know,
First, I'm going to start with, like, on campus, like, I encounter a lot of people who have really, like, just stupid arguments. Like, my best friend, like, she's not my best friend, but she's a friend I see on a regular basis. She is a pro-abortion, and she says that although baby murder isn't unethical, circumcision is. When the left gives you arguments like this, how do you handle, like, people who inherently contradict themselves?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that you have to do, I mean, the nice thing is if you're going to contradict yourself, that gives you an immediate opening, right? I mean, spotting contradictions in a person's argument is the first step toward defeating the argument. With a person like this, I hope that there's a crowd around because, again, the only purpose of the conversation is to humiliate this person as badly as possible in front of as many people as possible. It's legitimately the only purpose. But, you know, for a person who says things like that, the nice thing is that hypocrisy is easy to point out. So you're very, very concerned about foreskins being cut off, but not heads being cut off. right? It seems like I'd be more concerned with more flesh being cut off rather than less, just on a basic level. Also, it turns out that cutting off the foreskin, I can testify from personal experience because I now have 2 children. It does not prevent the production of children. It turns out that killing children prevents the production of children. So I'm not sure what you're